Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.
Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire, and my apologies for this delayed start. We have internet problems. Today we ask, is terror once again flaring in Manipur? And this time, could it be the government that is to blame? Joining me to answer that question is one of the most highly regarded human rights activists in the state, the Director of Human Rights Alert, Babloo Loitangbam. Babloo Loitangbam, let me start a little differently to that introduction. Has the surprise arrest of 4 Kuki people accused of the murder of 2 Meitei students in July calmed the situation in the valley, where last week we saw massive protests with attempts to attack the Chief Minister's as well as the BJP president's home, forcing the police to use tear gas and, according to some newspaper reports, even pellet guns? Have these arrests calmed the situation in the Imphal Valley?
Not quite yet, Karan. The anger of the people in the valley is still very high, particularly after the video, the photo of these 2 students came out, and when the students came out and protest, the level of repression was quite unprecedented. The use of pellet guns, for example, was never heard of in Manipur, and the anger of the people on this very high-handed, naked brutality of the security forces has come as a very bad taste, and particularly among students in uniform, most of them girls. It is quite expected that there will be some outcry and some anger when their colleagues are being killed, but to use force to the extent that we have experienced, using the rapid action force, which is meant to deal with riot situation, was used against peaceful protesters of students, totally non-violent. Magistrate declaring these processions as unlawful was come at a very bad taste. So that bitterness is still very high, and the arrest of the few Kuki leaders have not quite calmed down. The students are still looking for a greater commitment from the government that these things will be checked and justice will be done promptly. So I don't think it has calmed down yet.
Now, as you know, there are always 2 sides to every story. I'll come to the bitter and angry Kuki response to the arrests a little later. First, let's discuss the mass protests for a little bit longer. Sharda Devi, the BJP Manipur chief, has told the Indian Express, "I have never seen this kind of aggression and hostility towards a party which is running the government." Separately, she's written to JP Nadda, the BJP party president, to say people's anger and protest is turning the tide against the government. Do you agree with her views, or is she slightly exaggerating?
I think now the anger is clearly directed to the present dispensation in Imphal. Earlier, many people felt that the Meitei and the state government was going together. But there is clearly a very angry response, particularly from the youth, that they are dissatisfied with the way things are being handled by the power that be in Imphal, and particularly after the handling of this students' protest, the bitterness have gone very sore. The attack was not only in the BJP president's house. It
Are you
was
there?
under attack, and the police have to fend and defend it for more than right through the midnight till 2 o'clock. So clearly there is a lot of bitterness of the way things are being handled by the Manipur state government, even among the Meitei. I mean, the Kukis have always been against it, it's very clear. But now I think a substantial section of the Meiteis are also very unhappy with the way things are handled.
Now, as you mentioned, to quell the protests, the police not only used tough measures like batons and tear gas, but also pellet guns. Some of the newspapers have reported horrific injuries inflicted upon young students, including one potential blinding. How do these young Meitei students and their parents, perhaps in particular, today view Chief Minister Biren Singhs?
In fact, Karan, many of our researchers are going and taking interview of these people in the hospital. We have documented at least 171 injured students in these 3 days, starting from 26, 27, 28. It is continuous protest. And some of them have, pellet injuries, 70 pellet injuries. Some of them are taken out, but some of them have gone into very vital parts. These are very dangerous. Some of the pellet guns are stuck in the throat. So it will have very long-term effect on the health of these young students. As you have already pointed out, there are instances where the entire soldier was being blown off because it was shot at point-blank range. And a number of pellets are inside the body. And even to find them out, it's a huge challenging task for the medical professionals to do that. And I mean, this is totally unnecessary. See, right to assemble peacefully is a fundamental right that every citizen of this country is entitled to under Article 19. And if you want to disperse a crowd, clearly CRPC 129 says that a magistrate have to declare that it is an unlawful assembly. And this has to be announced well in ahead, that you should be dispersed under at a certain stipulated time. Here we are talking of mostly children below 18 years coming out in a very disciplined protest, many of them girls, and you are just shooting in tear gas cells and rubber bullets and pellet guns. This is without any early warning or giving them a time to kind of disperse the crowd. This is totally, to my understanding, unconstitutional way of handling a protest. It was only expected, when young children are killed, their classmates will be angry. Why can't they just direct them to express their anger in a route which is not, detrimental to whatever the sensitive establishment of the state? But to use this level of brutality, like pellet guns, and having permanent disability, blindness for children, for just exercising their constitutional right is completely incomprehensible for me. And that too in a context where there is already an ongoing conflict and people's anger and thrust on the government is at such a low key. To use this kind of excessive force was totally unnecessary and in excess of whatever is completely disproportionate to the kind of challenge that this students in uniform has posed.
Now, newspaper reports suggest that despite the arrests that were made, demands for the replacement of Chief Minister Biren Singhs are not just continuing, but possibly getting louder. Yesterday's Times of India, that's Monday the 2nd, reports that a group called Youth of Manipur met BJP MLAs in Delhi and demanded that Chief Minister Biren Singhs be replaced. Now, this was a man who not that long ago was an icon for the Meitei people. Pramod Singh, the head of the Meitei Lipon, actually says he hero worships him. But today, students are demanding his replacement, and even an organization like the Arambai Tengol, which I believe has him as a patron, is actually promising to protect Manipur, which is a job the chief minister should be doing, but they are stepping in his place. Has there been an irreversible reversal in his fortunes, or can he make back the ground he's lost?
I think, honestly, Karan, it is time for a fresh person to take over Manipur, because we have already given a good 5 months to the present Chief Minister. He has had all the opportunities to take initiative, but clearly a peace process is very unlikely to happen so long as he is in the helm of affair. And that is what is needed in Manipur today, a peace process where things can calm down a little bit. And if he is not doing that for the last 5 months, it is about time that we give opportunity to another leader from the BJP. I don't think BJP is so deprived of any able leadership than Biren, and give a fresh attempt that would be in the good of BJP, for example, for their own electoral prospects in Manipur. But if things goes from bad to worse, you see a huge reversal in terms of people's faith and trust on Biren. And if this continues, it'll not be good for BJP either. And when this kind of lack of leadership continues, ordinary people are suffering on the ground like anything. There's no food to eat in many relief camps. People whose lives are dislodged last 5 months and living as on total humanitarian aid still don't have any direction or hope on where things are moving. So it's a very desperate situation in Manipur. The more people are put at this age, I think people may go completely out of control and wild. So it is about time that a leadership change happens in Manipur.
This is a very important change in your views, Babloo Loitangbam. I'll point this out for the audience. When I last interviewed you, roughly 6-8 weeks ago, you were reluctant at that time to say that we need to replace the chief minister. Now you've said it openly and readily, and I'm simply underlining that for the audience because that is an illustration of how far and how deep the fortunes of the chief minister have fallen. But let me go a step further. How much of the anger that's being expressed by Meitei students on the streets of Imphal is also directed at the central government? Because I notice in the letters Sharda Devi sent JP Nadda, she also called for the revocation of Article 355 in case, she added, it's been invoked. No one is sure whether it has been invoked or not. And she also said that placing the chief minister in full control of the unified command was necessary. Now, that is clearly a message to Home Minister Amit Shah and the Prime Minister. So, although couched carefully, is there also a measure of anger directed straight at the central government?
I think so. Anger against central government is a given in Manipur for a long time, particularly the silence of the Honorable Prime Minister has been too loud all through. The complete fiasco in the parliament was another. People were expecting a lot that finally Manipur is at the center stage and some really important debate will continue, but the way in which it became a big anti-climax was very clear, and the anger in the street is also against the security forces, the central security forces which are deployed there, and that is given. I think people were hoping a little bit that the Manipur government, being so close to the ground and responding to the local needs, were at least something that they can depend on. But even that is eroding at a very rapid pace. So when people take things in their own hands, that is definitely good. And I think the patients are drying up very fast today in Manipur. 5 months with complete chaos and complete lack of any form of governance is getting too long. And I think people's patience is really drying up.
Let's come at this point, Babloo Loitangbam, to the other side of the coin, the angry Kuki response to the arrest of 4 Kuki accused of being guilty of killing the 2 Meitei students. First of all, they are upset that a special CBI investigation team was flown to Manipur to investigate the deaths of the 2 Meitei students when nothing similar happened to investigate the killing of 2 Kuki women in a car park, the beheading of David Thaik, or the killing of a young boy and his mother by burning their ambulance. Clearly, in Kuki eyes, this looks like an unwarranted special treatment for the Meitei only. And I notice that Patricia Mukim, the editor of the Shillong Times, has actually picked this up. She's written, and I'm quoting her, the alacrity with which the Union Home Ministry responded to this particular case is astounding. The other deaths, she says, received no attention from the Union Home Ministry, and she asks, is there justice and fair play here? How would you personally answer that question?
Karan, for me, it is very clear. Every allegation of this grievous crime has to be investigated promptly, thoroughly, impartially, and in an independent manner. There cannot be an ethnic lens when crimes are concerned. If they are doing it quickly, I think it needs to be appreciated. If they are going it slow, that needs to be condemned. But I don't want to put in any ethnic color to it. I think the Kuki crimes against Kuki needs to be investigated promptly and thoroughly as much as crimes against Meitei. I mean, if people feel that there is a discrimination, I think it needs to be aired out. But to my understanding, crime cannot be colored by any ethnic lens. It has to be colorblind, and it has to be everyone.
I hear what you're saying, that all crimes need to be investigated quickly, thoroughly, and diligently. But would you also say that all crimes, whether against the Kuki or the Meitei, need to be investigated equally? In other words, don't prioritize one over the other. Don't make special arrangements for one over the other. They all need to be treated equally.
I'm completely with you on that. There cannot be a discrimination on the basis of ethnicity, caste, creed. Crime is a crime, and it should be dealt most impartially.
Now, let me bring up a second cause of the Kuki anger. This time, it's the speed with which the CBI have made the arrest. The special team led by Ajay Bhatnagar only reached Imphal on the evening of the 27th of September. 4 days later, they made the arrest. And in response, let me quote what the Indigenous Tribal Leaders Forum has said in an official statement. They say, if the CBI can act with such swiftness, why has it not arrested anyone in other heinous cases? And the Kuki MP have perhaps gone one step further. Again, in an official statement, they say, when arrests are made on grounds of suspicion against the Kuki Zo community, why are the culprits of barbaric beheading, mutilation, rape, and immolation against the Kuki Zo not apprehended in the same manner? So what people are questioning is, have you managed to crack this in just 4 days? And secondly, if you're arresting on suspicion in one case, why aren't you arresting on suspicion in the other?
Well, Karan, I mean, I would not criticize the CBI for doing a prompt response on the crime against Meitei. What I will encourage is that they need to expedite their process of investigating on all the crimes where Kukis are victim. I mean, it should not be that we should deter them from prompt investigation. I think it is important that they need to do prompt investigation. However, if I may point out, even in this particular case of these 2 young students, even though certain culprits were arrested, their body are not recovered, for example. Everybody knows where their body is, which village it is. So people are feeling, I mean, the skepticism in Imphal. I mean, I just came out from Imphal yesterday, so I know the feeling there is that why are the body not being investigated? I think the push should be for thorough and prompt investigation, both at the Meitei end as well as at the Kuki end. We should not discriminate, but we should not start. It will be wrong to say that delay the Meitei investigation because the Kukis are not investigated, or the other way around, delay the Kuki investigation because Meiteis are not investigated. I think the push from the civil society, both Kuki as well as the Meitei, should be, let us have an effective investigation to investigate all the crime that was committed in this very mad times that we have all gone through, and we should all encourage prompt and thorough investigation in all these crimes, not the other way around. Let us not deter.
Let's come at this point to something Chief Minister Biren Singhs tweeted almost immediately after the 4 Kuki arrests had been made. This is what he tweeted: "I'm pleased to say some of the main culprits responsible for the abduction and murder of the students have been arrested from Churachandpur today." On what basis is the Chief Minister calling them culprits when at the moment they're only accused? They only will become culprits when they are found guilty by a court. And secondly, not only has he jumped the gun, but has he also endangered the court process? Because it may now be that a lower magistrate influenced by the Chief Minister will actually tend towards finding them as culprits. So was he right to speak in this way?
Karan, the less I say about my Honorable Chief Minister, the better it is. He have also said he's going to give capital punishment for the rapist when this first thing came out, as if the Chief Minister has the authority or the power to do that. So I don't want to comment on his statement. His statement is his statement. But I think a responsible Chief Minister should see that investigations are carried out without any fear or favor. Investigation should be done in an objective, scientific manner so that the truth is dragged out. I think it is not fair to try and get, cheap political mileage out of such tragedies that we are seeing. Let the investigator have a free hand with absolute, fairness, come out, build the case and bring the evidence in front of the court, and the court will have to do the trial. I think that is the way the constitutional scheme of this country is. If there are aberrations from certain leaders, I think they are answerable to what they are saying. It is unfortunate, but I think the Manipur situation could be handled a lot better than the present way in which it is being handled.
Let me pick up on that point. Not only do you believe that the situation could be handled a lot better than it is being handled, but we also have discussed in some detail how the Chief Minister's fortunes have collapsed, and you believe now that he should be replaced. Therefore, it's not surprising that the Indigenous Leaders Forum says, and I'm quoting them, "It seems that the central government is trying to save the Chief Minister from the Meitei community's wrath by coming down hard on hapless tribals, including women." To what extent do you agree or disagree with that comment, that this speeding up of the investigation is an attempt to save the bacon or the skin of the Chief Minister?
Well, I think if you look at the balance of the level of atrocities against 171 students with pellet guns still inside the flesh and people struggling in the hospital for their life, and permanent handicap, including blindness, arresting 2-3 people is not going to be so healing to many of this. And I would like to also request my brothers in the Kuki community, particularly the leadership, that we have to come a little above this totally, ethnic blindness. I know there is a lot of suffering among the Kukis, and we need to empathize with it. But I think it is also time for responsible leaders of the Kuki community also to come up and understand and empathize with the Meitei sufferings. That is how we can overcome this. But if you continue to get into this cycle of victimhood and constantly see nothing but we as victims and they dehumanize monsters, there is no end to it. We can go over and over. And having said that, there are also a lot of my own Meitei friends who are doing the same, echo chamber, living in this whole echo chamber, trying to constantly rock this ethnic tent and show that we are the victims and they are the perpetrators. But this is not taking us anywhere. Now, we are down the drain in the last 5 months. We need to get up, go above and beyond just this, the ethnic kind of shaking of the ethnic tent and constantly playing the victimhood. We need to come up and see, and that is how I think we need to move forward.
Now, initially, the Kuki community responded by declaring an indefinite shutdown in the Churachandpur district. They said all boundary areas with the Meitei will be sealed, all government offices will be closed. But today, on the second day, they've actually withdrawn it. Shortly before we went on air, they've withdrawn it, and they say the reason for withdrawing it is because this was causing hardship to the Kukis and not in any way affecting the Chief Minister or the Meitei community. How do you read that withdrawal of the cessation?
I think there is, of course, a lot of dynamics within the Kuki leadership. And the truth is, whether you like it or not, the Kuki and Meitei have a symbiotic relationship, which will be very, very difficult to sever. You think you can let the Meitei suffer and Kuki have a great life is impossible. The same way as you think that Kuki will be made to suffer and Meitei having a great time is impossible. I mean, by the very nature of things, the fact that we are living side by side as neighbors for thousands of years and perhaps will continue to live forever. As they say, you can choose enemies and you can choose friends, but neighbors are there forever. We will always be living together. So the interconnectedness, when you try to make the Meitei suffer, the Kukis will suffer equally. Sooner or later. Similarly, I think if the Meitei tries the same technique, it'll bounce back on us. As you say, when you put an accusing finger on someone, remember there are three fingers kind of pointing towards you. So that interconnectedness have to be understood and appreciated. But we have to stop this demonizing the other and kind of glorifying the victimhood in our own community. That leads nowhere.
We're coming to the end, but before I end, I want to look down the road with you. And let me begin by putting this. From the Kuki point of view, what they call the one-sided response from the CBI to the atrocities they are investigating is not the first recent instance of unfairness. Earlier, the extension of AFSPA, they believe, is another. It was extended in the hill country for 6 months, but not in the valley. And do you fear that if this perception in the Kukis that we're being treated unfairly continues and grows, it will expand rather than heal the Kuki-Meitei divide? And it's important to heal it, but now events seem to be increasing the discord.
Yeah, on the issue of AFSPA, Karan, I have worked a lot on this. I've invested a lot, a huge chunk of my life campaigning around AFSPA issue. I personally think that AFSPA needs to go for everyone. It is a lawless law. I mean, many of the commissions and committee of Government of India's own committees like Jeevan Reddy Committee, the Second Administrative Reform Commission, have all said that it's outdated. It is doing more harm than good. A person no less than Chidambaram, who was in the helm of affairs, who was the Home Minister, have called it an obnoxious act. I don't think it has any place in modern democracy. I mean, military is an instrument that has to be confined to warfare and not in civil administration. That too for half a century is completely not in sync with the democratic trusts of India that we are all looking forward to. But however, in terms of the discrimination part, see, on the 26th and 27th, when there was this firing in Imphal, the Jat regiment of Indian Army was there. But AFSPA is technically not there. Under what authority they were there in the street shooting into the uniformed student, one can't understand. See, to talk about law is one thing. In Manipur today, there is no law. The rule of law has gone for a sixer long time ago. So even though there is no disturbed area status in Imphal, the Jat regiment of Indian Army was very much there. When we were interviewing these victims, they were showing that. So irrespective of whether there is formal AFSPA or not, the military and this use of rapid action force, riot police, Assam Rifles, BSF, were all there in the mayhem that we saw in Imphal 27, 28, 20. So, I mean, if some Kuki wants that APSPA should be there in their territory because it is useful for protecting them against the Nagas and Meitei, it is not a very sustainable way of conceiving security.
Forgive me, Babloo, they want the opposite. They want AFSPA lifted from the hill country just as it's been lifted from the valley. And you're making an interesting point. You're saying the absence of AFSPA in the valley has not deterred the high-handedness of the Jat regiment. And I accept that point. But the point that Kuki are making is if you've lifted AFSPA from the valley, lift it from the hill country too. If you retain it in the hill country, you are giving legal authority to the army to behave differently in the hill country to the way they behave in the valley.
I am 100% with the Kuki friends who are demanding the repeal of APSPA. APSPA is an outdated law. It needs to be scrapped from the Statute Book of India. Repeal of APSPA is what we have been demanding all these years. This is what all the experts, including the Administrative Reform Commission and Jiban Reddy Commission, and I think many of the sensible politicians in the country have said it has outlived its relevance. It needs to go. And I am with my Kuki friends when they say APSPA needs to go from the Kuki area.
Now, after a few weeks of what looked like a comparative lull in Manipur, it seems once again the situation is poised for significant worsening. Do you believe this time round it's the government's mishandling that is to blame, specifically the state government?
Yeah, it is very chaotic in Imphal today, but I'm encouraged and I'm happy to see that people are having the courage to speak out their minds now. Earlier, there was a kind of a lull and a fear, and a narrative was heavily controlled. Now I am seeing that there is a much more organic response particularly from the youth who are able to articulate their needs and their desire of peace, which is encouraging. It is understandable they are going to be at loggerhead with, scripted vigilante groups who are already controlling Manipur, at least the Meitei narrative. But the fact that today the students are gathering enough courage and organizing themselves and articulating their voices, to me is a very interesting development. I would like to encourage these voices to come out and nurture them so that they will be able to articulate the need of the people much more strongly.
You're talking specifically about young Meitei students articulating their opposition, if not their antipathy for the Chief Minister in particular. That is the big change you're talking about.
Not the Chief Minister as a person, but the politics that the Chief Minister represents, which is not very good for the future of Manipur.
Now, just over a month ago, former Home Secretary G.K. Pillai, who's an acknowledged expert not just on the Northeast, but on Manipur in particular, told me, literally in so many words, that the Modi government is deliberately siding with the Meitei. He says that is their strategic policy. How do you respond to what Mr. Pillai said?
Karan, I think the state is on both sides of the conflict. I know I'm entering very difficult areas when I'm saying this, but assume that it is the Meitei that the state is arming and giving ammunitions. How is it that the Kukis are able to resist it for the last 5 months? I don't think there is any ammunition factories in Kuki areas. The guns are being supplied. There are also quite sophisticated arms and ammunitions that they are using to attack the Meitei as well. So I think it is on both sides. To sustain a conflict for 5 months requires a lot of resources, both in terms of armory, but also in terms of feeding the soldiers, running the camps, taking care of the injured. Where is all this resource coming from? I think we cannot just say it is one-sided. I think there are channels of communication and this thing on both sides. I have shared this earlier. If you do a map of how things are being fought, Meiteis Kukis says are supported by the police, and police is responsible to the Chief Minister, and the Meiteis are saying that Kukis are helped by the Assam Rifles. Assam Rifle reports back to the Union Home Ministry. The Union Home Minister and our Honourable Chief Minister are best of friends. They are in full cooperation as admitted in the Parliament. So this is a very unnatural conflict. Usually leaders fight and their followers enter into violent conflict on the ground. Here is a situation where the leaders are in full cooperation with each other, and the people who are deriving power from them are fighting for the last 5 months without end in the ground. This is a very, very unnatural conflict in that sense.
Let me end by raising two things that the Chief Minister has said literally in the last 3 days. They were both spoken in October, and they are not just things that have attracted enormous attention, but they're potentially very controversial. First, this is how he described the situation in Manipur. I'm quoting him. The current crisis in Manipur is not a clash between ethnic groups and not a law and order issue of the state, but purely a war against the Indian Union by Myanmar and Bangladesh-based Kuki militants in collaboration with militant groups operating in Manipur. How do you view this interpretation of the situation in Manipur from the Chief Minister?
Well, if you look at the NIA charges, I mean, at least the FIR report of these Kukis who are arrested, I think that theory is reflected the same, that they are in conspiracy with people, the groups in Myanmar and in Bangladesh, and then trying to carve out.
So I would leave it. Can I interrupt briefly? You're referring to the NI arrest of a Kuki called Semin Lumgante. Yes. Days before that, literally a week or 8-9 days before that, a Meitei called Morangthem Anand Singh, who's a member of the People's Liberation, was also arrested by the NIA. And both Gangte and Anand Singh have been flown out of Manipur and taken to Delhi. One is alleged to be connected to Meitei underground groups in Myanmar and Bangladesh. The other is connected to Kuki underground groups in Myanmar and Bangladesh. So surely, if the Chief Minister wants to say that underground groups from both communities are increasing and fueling the discord, that would be understandable. But he's deliberately talking about one side, the Kuki, and ignoring the Meitei, and he happens to be a Meitei himself.
Yeah, that is exactly the reason why, Karan, we are suffering for the last 5 months. And that is why, exactly the reason why we say we need a fresh person, a fresh mind, and a fresh heart to take charge of the Manipur situation.
My last question.
It doesn't help.
Northeast Now News on the 2nd of October, that's yesterday, reports that Chief Minister Biren Singhs says the disqualification of 10 Kuki MLAs who have called for a separate administration is under active consideration at the highest political level. And Northeast Now News says the Chief Minister mentioned the Home Minister and Prime Minister. Is this a wise thing to do at this point, to start disqualifying Kuki MLAs? And remember, of those 10, 7 are from his own party.
This is the problem of the mindset, Karan. As in English, they said, when all you have is a hammer, every problem is a nail. So the approach is always this high-handed kind of bullying, pressure tactics, rather than any sign of diplomacy and vision and empathy of trying to understand what is happening on the other side of the fence. That is why if we continue on this line, the problem is only the vortex of violence is only going to get deeper and deeper, and it will be extremely difficult to extricate ourselves out of that if time goes by. I wish wisdom dawns on the leadership of this country, and they try and work out a new leadership in Manipur to salvage Manipur and to salvage India in that process. Otherwise, we are putting this very sensitive state of Manipur in very difficult situation, which will be very difficult for us to get out from.
You've said in this interview, Babloo Loitangbam, 4, maybe 5 times, that the Chief Minister must be replaced in the interest of Manipur. Now, that is something that will only happen if the Home Minister or the Prime Minister decide to replace him. So the onus is therefore on the government in Delhi, on Amit Shah, and on Narendra Modi. And secondly, if they don't act, then it is their responsibility for endangering the security and safety and happiness of Manipur. The blame will fall squarely on Amit Shah and Narendra Modi.
Absolutely. With power comes responsibility. And it is time that they exercise responsibility and power in a responsible way.
Babloo Loitangbam, thank you very much for this interview, for explaining things in such detail, and for the honesty and clarity with which you have spoken. I'm deeply grateful.
Thank you, Karan.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch The Interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.